Hi everyone, this is Duncan from the podcast Under the Stairs. This particular video you're checking out just now has the archival recording attached to it. The archival recording is from our podography, I think that's the term that we use, and it will feature reviews of movies that fall under the 88 Films Italian Collection series. Now, the vast majority of reviews we've done over the last 5 years have been in audio format and published on our RSS feed for the podcast. We are transitioning over to give you access to all those reviews right here on YouTube under a playlist. Now, we're doing that because we're about to do our first video recording of 88 Films Italian Collection release, that being Tentacles. So there's plenty of opportunity to delve into the back catalogue of the reviews here. And if you like what you hear, then please hit subscribe on the channel, leave your comments below, and check out the rich catalogue of over 1,200 episodes we have on podcasts Under the Stairs on any podcatching device or Spotify that you use. So stick around, enjoy the episode, and I'll speak to you very soon.
I love you. You'd be sad to leave Prague.
Why, yes, I enjoy it. That is not sufficient proof when you say the girl was wearing nothing when she left.
And yet I've known it to happen that someone suddenly decides to move out. They leave, there's no warning, and no arguing.
Now, let me say this to you. They'd better, because I'll write a story and blast every last one of you for murder. Why did you say murder?
And the part that beats me is how the hell you could care for someone like her.
We know that both you and the girl took drugs.
You're lucky. She's not in a morgue with a broken neck. Who did it? Do you know him?
They don't fly. Don't let them fly.
And welcome back. So you just heard the trailer for this feature review as part of the 88 Films Italian Collection series. Disc number 21, Short Night of Glass Dolls. Yeah, in the interim between recording the intro and swinging into this, I realised there is not a "the" in the name, which you would think there would be. You really think there would be. Turns out no, it's Short Night of Glass Dolls and not The Glass Dolls like I've been saying for every year that I knew this film existed. You live and learn, ladies and gents. You live and learn. Anyway, let's get into this. According to the 88 Films website, here's the blurb, says, when the body of American journalist Gregory Moore, played by Jean Sorel from Persian Story, is discovered in the beautiful Malostran area of Prague, the body is moved to the morgue for an autopsy. Only thing is, Gregory is still alive and has been paralysed in a death-like state. As the ultimate deadline draws near, Gregory's mind races to recall why this happened to him and who's behind the spat of kidnappings of gorgeous local women, including his girlfriend, Mira, played by Barbara Bach from The Unseen. Aldo Lado's remarkable film is an atmospheric delight that boasts an incredible score from the maestro himself, Ennio Morricone, who scored The Good, the Bad and Ugly, but I don't need to tell you that. You know who this guy is if you're listening to this episode. Anyway, and the more that deserves its reputation as one of the finest examples of the Giallo genre. 88 Films are proud to present the stone-cold classic of Italian cinema in pristine HD for the first time in the UK. Special features on this disc ain't got much, I'm afraid. This is a new 2K restoration from the original camera negatives, a restored English soundtrack, a restored Italian soundtrack with English subtitles, English trailer and Italian trailer. So light on the old special features on this one. That being said, I think this movie stands pretty much alone in one of those ones where I'll be like that, fuck the special features, own the movie. Yeah, so I love this one. There is like literally no way I can go into this without gushing over the fact that this is maybe one of my favourite of the genre, mostly because of the, well, I was going to say that there is no twist, but mostly because of the ending. The ending really is, it's one of the things that people will lean into on this one. It kind of goes very against a lot of the Giallo trappings to this point, if that makes a bit of sense. Up until, to put things into perspective, let's spread things out here, right? So you have in the genre some attempts to really kind of work out what's happening. Bava himself has kind of set the blueprint of what a Giallo should be in his mind. It's kind of like an update of kind of cross between a Hitchcockian thriller meets a kind of Agatha Christie crime thriller, mashed together with a hyper-stylized Italian scenery and clothing and scoring, and yeah, he really sets the benchmark out. You watch Blood and Black Lace, the blueprint is there for what Argento would eventually do with the genre, but it doesn't really have much kind of leading the charge, so to speak. So Bava's dabbling with it, but Bava's dabbling with a lot up until 1970. So you have a couple of people that take a swing at it, and then in 1970, this guy, Dario Argento, comes along with this little movie called Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and internationally, people lose their shit. They're like, this is what we want, this is really cool. And Argento goes to kind of formalise a real strong idea of what it is, or what is needed to make a Giallo, a kind of modernised version of something which isn't even all that old. I mean, as a subgenre, it isn't even a decade old by the time Argento puts his stamp on it. And then the doors open, and every Italian director worth their salt gets a swing at a Giallo or two. And there's this great story, if you're reading books about this, you'll find out that on any given day for about a 4-year period in Rome, you go to any theatre and you were guaranteed to be getting at least one Giallo playing at the theatres. Sometimes they were going against each other on release dates, which is just insane. Every studio, every director, give us more Giallo. This is what the people want. And of course, like all things that are oversaturated and hyper-popularised, there's a certain tip-off point, and the tip-off point for Giallo came pretty quick. It was within like the first 4 years of the kind of post-Argento Bird with a Crystal Plumage. So by 74, people are losing interest, which weirdly enough speaks quite true to, I think, horror's attention span in general, or cinema's attention span out with something like superhero movies. There is a tipping point when the market is oversaturated. I mean, if you look at slashers, the kind of American equivalent of a Giallo, if you look at those movies, you have a run from about 79 to approximately 83, which is seen as the boom and then things start to go stale. That's not to say that there aren't great movies that come out afterwards. It's the same with all genres. You will get ones that buck the trend. It's just mostly people's interests start to go elsewhere. And it seems to be about a 4-year, 5-year period. If you get a lot of them, people start to lose interest. The ones that stand out are the ones that are done impeccably well. I mean, like, they follow the formula, they do things on a very high level, and they pay their respects to the movies or the filmmakers that have brought it to that state. Or the ones that actually kind of invert or subvert a lot of what makes the genre appeasing or appealing to fans. And Short Night of Glass Dolls is that movie to me. It's a movie which is very much a thriller with a horror ending. I mean, this has probably got one of the more memorable endings. It's an ending that kind of makes sense as well, and it's an ending that when it happens, you're like, the fucking balls on Aldo Lado to leave an audience with this ending. You know, most Giallos end with the hero finally remembering the thing that he needs to remember to solve the case in time to solve the case. And the killers themselves usually end up, dead, for lack of a better word, or in prison, mostly dead. If you're in an Argento film and you're the killer, something really fucking bad is going to happen to you at the end of the movie. There ain't going to be much left to put in a coffin, let's put it that way. And Short Night of Glass Dolls bucks that trend fucking hard. I mean, like, whiplash hard. So let's talk about it a bit more, because this movie has a lot on its side, a lot of things which make it like a really, really, really interesting entry into the subgenre. And a lot of it comes right off the bat of when it was released. So, I mean, this movie was made in 71, started to get released very late 71 and into 72. So we are, like I say, riding the coattails of Bird with the Crystal Plumage, which, I mean, people will then go on to replicate over and over again. Argento himself goes on to kind of replicate over and over and over again with that movie. That I think that what you get when Lado takes his run at this movie is that the formula is there, but it's not really cemented yet, so you can afford to be playful and put your own stamp on things. So yeah, it's kind of early in it. The casting is great. I mean, Jean Sorel, who does a ton of genre stuff, has worked with some of the greats of Italian cinema by this point. Really, really, really does a wonderful job of not only playing a would-be corpse or a man in suspended animation, paralysed with this, non-existent drug that does this to him. But what I love about it is mostly his recalling of certain events through the eyes of someone who's now looking back at events that happened to try and unravel a mystery. So most Giallos, what we get is someone is in a mystery, and if only they could remember that one thing that they think they heard someone say, then maybe they could solve the case that they've been thrown into. In this one, you get basically that sort of story, but there is really a time frame. There's clock ticking. This clock ticking towards Sorel actually being, for all intents and purposes, dissected as part of a live autopsy in front of would-be scholars and doctors. So we have this like kind of urgency of time, which you don't have in a lot of Giallos. It tends to be, well, will the killer kill again? We need to stop the killer killing again. This is the idea, is to try and stop a murder. In the case of this one, the murder is that of our hero, which I think is just a wonderfully perverse and dark little bent to take the storytelling in. But Sorel is captivating on screen. I've said it many times before. You go back and listen to a little episode that we did on Fulci, myself, the great Doug Tilley, and the mighty Jeff X. Martin. Many moons ago, we did a kind of a run on Fulci. We looked at, it was over 3 episodes, kind of the classic Fulci, the early Fulci, and then the later Fulci. And looking into things like Perversion Story in particular, there is something very captivating about Jean Sorel, or Jean Sorel. He looks every part the leading man. There's something in his eyes as well, that the man has captivating eyes, and we get a lot of shots of them, and thankfully they understand that's what's captivating, so keep your camera on them. But yeah, he's trying to really dig into an area he's not familiar with in Prague to unravel this mystery of kidnappings that seem to be happening. And as we further work our way down it, the more we start to realise that, you know, things are maybe a bit more sinister than they seem. What I love about this movie is that it kind of twists and turns conversations, because you're trying to solve the mystery. You're basically at eye level with Gregory's character trying to solve the mystery, and you work your way through it, trying to find the hook, the person that maybe it's you, maybe it's this guy. Well, this guy doesn't seem good. This guy doesn't seem great. And the movie trundles onwards. Now, what I will say is, if you do not know the ending to this movie, and you really don't want to know the ending of this movie, if I've already sold it to you with the praise, you probably want to abandon the episode now. I say that with all sincerity, that I do not want to spoil the ending to this movie. It is fucking killer and kick ass, literally killer. So, yeah, here's your warning. Even though there's a spoiler warning at the beginning of this episode, please bail now if you do not want to know, because I will tell you in the count of 3. So 3, 2, 1. So the end of this movie, hello, like, really does turn everything on its head. Like I say, the usual end to Giallo is our hero solves the mystery in time to prevent another crime, or solves a mystery in time to catch the killer. In Short Night of the Glass Doll, he solves the mystery, but he solves it just a little bit too late. And as the effects of the drug are starting to wear off, and he's starting to come back to life on an autopsy table in front of basically his would-be killers, who he can see looking at him smiling, the scalpel goes into his aorta, into his heart, and kills him. And our hero dies, unable to pass off the real identity of the killers to anyone interested. It is a wonderfully dark, macabre, and haunting ending to a movie. It is the Patrick Bateman confession at the end of American Psycho of Giallo movies. It is, this confession has meant nothing. You travel this journey with this time ticking on, and just as you solve the mystery to tell someone, this movie says no. I think it is very ballsy. It's an ending that I don't think will work for everyone, but I love it. Mostly because no other Giallo does this. Now, I've heard people complain that this is not a Giallo. I would say that you're an idiot if you think that. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but this is the pièce de résistance of what a Giallo is. It's, you know, Italian made. It's Italian written. It has a wonderful score by the maestro himself, which we're about to talk about. The score to this movie is fucking incredible, as only Morricone could. It is very stylish. It captures all the kind of thrilling aspects of the crime mystery that you want. It has that kind of Hitchcockian level, or even Agatha Christie level of mystery around it as well, which works really well. But the movie really, I think, for people, loses its Giallo status from the ending, because they want the hero to win. And I'm quite glad that it doesn't go that way, if that makes sense. Because to me, what makes this movie stand out from all the others in this time frame is mostly because it has the ending that's different. There's a reason Deep Red is so highly regarded amongst Italian genre fans, Argento fans and Giallo fans, is because that movie really does change the idea of what the mystery in a Giallo should be. And Short Night of the Glass Doll does it as well. It does it really early into the life cycle of the genre. So I think that works really well. You see that more nowadays in horror movies, and I think that's to Short Night of Glass Doll's credit, is that it's so ahead of its time into what audiences actually want to see. In your 2000s and like kind of 2010 and onwards, a lot of horror movies come out where, you know, the hero doesn't necessarily save the day. And sometimes bad things happen. A recent example of that could be any of the found footage movies, but specifically looking at something like Sinister, where, you know, we eventually kind of work everything out and solve the crime, unfortunately too late and you're dead. and it has a really dark ending. This is kind of what Short Night of Glass Dolls does as well. So this idea of someone not being from the area, trying to kind of rabble against, and on some level there's an idea of class as well, a class structure of this one, like aristocracy, or those that are perceived as being, of the high class, the medical profession, the doctors in particular, surgeons or lawyers or stuff, that the ones that are considered at this time frame of this movie the upper class, being behind these horrible things. And regardless how you trundle through the maze that they set you, Mr. Hamster, journalist man, ultimately you're a rat in a trap, and can be dispatched whenever they want. The fact that everything's left as long as it is, and they turn up themselves to see him die at the hands of a scalpel, I think speaks a lot to the conspiracy of the movie. You could be killed at any time, but it's part of the game to make this guy suffer for what he has done. And it's wonderfully wicked and wonderfully evil. I mentioned the Morricone score. This is like one of my faves from the 70s, the score to Short Night of Glass Dolls. It's wonderful in its composition, and it really accentuates the colour schemes and the overall vibe of the movie. It all just works really well, a kind of harmony or tandem. Aldo Lado is a guy we've already spoken about. We spoke about him when we did The Night Train Murders, a movie which genuinely unsettles me, and once again is insanely beautiful for a movie that is dealing with such horrible subject matter. But we have to take things into consideration here. This is Lado's first movie, first proper movie, and he nails it. Nails it to the fucking wall, hard. First time director doing a movie like this, the balls you need to do, or the balls you need to have to do a movie like this is mind blowing. When it comes to a grade of this movie, I can't recommend it enough. I can't score it highly enough. It's a 5 for me. I fucking love it. I think it's one of these movies, it seems to be finding its place now. People seem to be checking it out. I know from listening to a favourite show of mine, Hello, This is the Doom Show, Richard Glenn Smith had talked about this being part of a Giallo collection that Anchor Bay put out. And along with other titles, I think those titles were maybe a bit more famous than this. But what I would say is, when you start examining Giallo as a subgenre, when you start checking out a lot more of these movies, the ones that stand out to me are the ones that are different, the ones that try different things, and they are not always successful in what they try, but you have to give them credit for trying something different or taking a different stab at it. Short Night of Glass Dolls, I think, not only takes a different stab at it, but delivers one of the more memorable entries in a decade of Giallo. Comes from Lado's very first movie, Short Night of Glass Dolls. So it's a 5 out of 5 from me.